have a tough time understanding love, and it can often be even tougher of a concept to understand as a child. But having conversations with your kids about love can play a key role in ensuring that they understand healthy relationships and develop strong boundaries. Joining us now is a distinguished professor of sociology at Oakland University and is known commonly as the Love Doctor. Dr. Terri Orbuch joins us now on the Michigan Megacast. Dr. Orbuch, thank you for being with us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Appreciate having you on. So first, tell us a little bit about your background and why you're known as the Love Doctor.
Well, as you said, Tyler, I'm a distinguished professor at Oakland University. I'm a therapist and a relationship coach. I'm also the director of a long-term research project where I've been following the same couples now for over 34 years. And as the Love Doctor, I'm bringing my science, my research, as well as others' research to the public in accessible ways so that people can implement that great science-based information into their lives.
So how can the science that you are researching, the sociological side of human behavior, the anthropological side of human behavior that plays a key factor in love relationships, how does that help you ultimately impact these relationships of the people that you're coaching and of those that you're researching and aiding their relationships over time?
Well, lots of relationship advice out there is based on individuals' personal experience or, as a therapist, let's say clinical experience. But when you use science, you know that it's general information that can really help and benefit your relationships. Because we're talking about researchers like myself who have looked at lots of couples, lots of individuals over time, and you know that the information can be generalized to you and your relationships. So it's good science that can help you improve your own relationships as well as the relationships of your children.
We so often hear about the impact that parents' relationships can have on their kids, but don't normally talk about the flip side of that, where a kid's relationship, whether they're a teenager or they're an adult child of their parents, can have an impact on their parents and their familial relationship as well. You recently wrote a book called Secrets to Surviving Your Children's Love Relationships. Briefly, what is that book about and what motivated you to write about this perspective of relationships?
Well, as parents, Tyler, we want the best for our children. And one of the things that we can give our children is science-based information about how relationships work and what is important to a happy, healthy relationships. Because relationships, healthy relationships, are so important to individuals' health and well-being, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and psychologically. So when our kids are happy and healthy in their relationships, that's going to benefit us and help us, and we're going to feel better because our kids are happy and healthy. So I wrote this book because as parents, we set the tone for how our kids act in relationships, feel about relationships, and the relationship skills they have to build happy, healthy relationships. I heard from parents all over the United States that they don't know how to start the important conversations with their children, and they don't know what's important to a happy, healthy relationship. So as parents, we have the responsibility not only to model healthy relationships in our own lives, but talk to our kids about relationships in general.
Especially with teenage kids, it can be really uncomfortable, particularly for the kids, but also I would imagine for the parents approaching their kids to have those conversations and check in with them on their romantic relationships. And so what sort of advice do you give to parents to initiate those conversations, to maintain those conversations and help guide their kids through these romantic relationships that for many of them may be the first time that they're engaging in these kinds of relationships in their lives?
Well, good question. First, I think it is challenging. It is difficult for parents to approach their kids and start talking about relationship. It's not easy. So the first piece of information that I have or advice that I have is to know that it is going to be difficult and challenging and have that expectation. Second, it's important to build trust with your child or children. And when we trust, our kids are going to be more likely to share and to come to us when they're experiencing a heartbreak, when they have issues in a relationship, and that's what we want. So start setting that groundwork with them early. Talk to them, share experiences of your own relationships, talk to them about television shows or books that you're reading, and use the characters in the movie, the sitcoms, the television shows to talk about relationships. And then finally, start the important discussions and don't judge. Don't lecture, don't tell them what to do, but ask questions so that they can have the epiphany, so that they can understand or have answers. Don't tell them what to feel, but lead them down a path so that you get the answers that you want. And that's a really interesting situation, Tyler. We don't want to lecture, but we want to ask questions so our kids then come up with the answers.
We're joined by the Love Doctor, Dr. Terri Orbuch, a distinguished professor of sociology at Oakland University and the author of Secrets to Surviving Your Children's Love Relationships. And Dr. Orbuch, throughout the book, you mention multiple times good relationships with your for your children start with you. What do you mean by that, and just how great of an impact can a parent's influence on their kids have on their kids' relationships, the longevity of the relationships, and certainly the quality and the health of that relationship?
Well, we as parents have a huge impact. We set the tone, we give them the relationship skills, information, and they're watching us. So they're watching all of our relationships first. So the relationship that we have with the barista at the coffee shop, with our partner, our love partner or spouse, their parent, with our other family members, and with our friends at large. So how we act in those relationships when our kids are watching will be important and will contribute to what behaviors and feelings and actions they do in their own relationships. So we have a responsibility, and the stakes are high, Tyler, because happy, healthy relationships, as I said, impact and contribute the number one influence on our children's health and well-being. So it's important to start now. It's never too early. So even if your child is in elementary school or middle school, start watching, start observing, start talking to them, and start implementing and modeling healthy behaviors in your own relationships.
We're joined by Dr. Terri Orbuch, distinguished professor of sociology at Oakland University and otherwise known as the Love Doctor. In relationships, such a key factor to the health and the longevity of a relationship is quality levels of trust between all individuals involved and everybody that is involved on the outskirts of that relationship as well and associated with that relationship. How do you suggest that parents talk to their kids about trust, developing that trust, trusting in their romantic partner, and developing that over time?
Mm-hmm. Well, as you said, Tyler, trust is the number one important ingredient in any healthy relationship. If you don't have trust, you can't have love and commitment, and you can't even feel comfortable sharing your thoughts and feelings with another person. Trust is when you feel like this person has your best interests at heart and you want to share your deepest, darkest secrets, or you just want to share information with that person. So as a parent, you want to start discussions about trust. You know, at an early age, you can just talk to your child about, why would you want to share a secret with a friend? What would have to be there in a relationship for you to feel comfortable to share something? And then when they get older, talk about commitment. Talk about how you can be a trusting partner or friend or family member and what that involves and what you can say and the kinds of questions that you can ask. And then third, model that as a parent with your child. So make sure that you're allowing them to share. Make sure that you're not judging or giving your values to them about something that they're disclosing to you that's a secret, that is at the core of who they are and their experiences. And then again, talk to them about how special they are and how unique they are. What we find research shows is that if you can affirm your child, share a special, unique strength that they have, and talk to them about the positive qualities that they have, they're going to feel better about themselves. And then they're much more likely to trust you as the parent and trust others in their relationships.
We're joined by Dr. Terri Orbuch, Distinguished Professor of Sociology at Oakland University, otherwise known as the Love Doctor, and the author of Secrets to Surviving Your Children's Love Relationships, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. As you explore these relationships between parents and their kids who are experiencing, maybe for the first time in their lives, a romantic relationship or have had maybe some issues with their romantic relationships in the past, what are some of the more common challenges that you see parents are experiencing in relation to their kids' relationships? And what's your advice for parents to navigate those situations in a way that is healthy for their relationship with their kid, but also isn't at a detriment to their kid's relationship?
Mm-hmm. Well, there are lots of love challenges, I think, that parents experience with their young adult children. One, for example, is when, as a parent, you don't feel that your child picked the right love partner for them. What we know is that that conversation, that discussion that you have with your child is so important, because if you judge, if you tell them what to do, if you say you shouldn't be with this love partner, then you distance them from you. And actually, then your child draws closer and is more likely to be attracted and want that love partner. So the stakes are high, as I said. So come to your child and again, ask them questions like, what do you think are the healthy relationship skills and factors in a happy, healthy relationship? And then what do you think this partner is giving you? What are the strengths? What are the good qualities of this current love partner? Let them discover that perhaps this love partner isn't giving them what they need and want in a relationship, and continue the discussions. It's going to be not one discussion, but many conversations over time. Another example of a love challenge is when your child comes home with a love partner. Where do the two people sleep? And do they sleep in the same room, or do they sleep in separate rooms when they're underneath your roof and your values? And again, have a discussion with your child ahead of time. Talk to them about what they're expecting, what your values are. And if your values are different, or if your opinions are different, talk about compromise. Talk about doing it one way and then doing it perhaps another way over time? Or are there some compromise or alternatives that you can have when your children come home and stay with their love partner in your home? The book shares lots of examples where parents can approach these love challenges in positive, simple, science-based ways.
We're joined by Dr. Terri Orbuch, Distinguished Professor of Sociology at Oakland University, joining us on the Michigan Megacast, also the author of Surviving Your Children's Love Relationships. Some of the more controversial, or not controversial, some of the more difficult challenges, I think, for parents today to be dealing with that's different from past generations is their child's identity, particularly their sexual preferences, their gender identity, and that's come under fire a lot recently, particularly in the state of Florida with the so-called Don't Say Gay bill. What are your thoughts on that bill, and then what are your thoughts on conversations that parents are going to be having with their children, especially in today's day and age, about their gender identity and about their sexuality that are different from past generations, and how parents should navigate that?
Well, I think it's important, Tyler, to have discussions where you talk about these topics, gender identity, sexual orientation with your children. And what you want to decide is, what is the age of my child and what is the maturity and emotional level of my child? And based on that, you want to implement these topics into discussions. And one of the best ways of doing that is using the media as a guide. Have you and your child sit down and watch a movie where perhaps someone in the television show or movie is having a challenge about gender identity, or has a different sexual orientation, or is talking about sexual orientation with their parent, and use that as a basis. Ask your child, well, what do you think the parent should have said? Or what do you think the child should have done? Or how should the child have approached the parent? So after you've had these discussions using the media, using the mass media that your child is watching, and making sure that you're having an appropriate age-related, maturity-related discussion, then bring it home and bring it to them and ask them questions about them, their friends, and what's happening at school and in their peer groups. So remember that talking about it, accepting your child, is so very important for their health and well-being, as well as their lifelong relationships in the future.
Dr. Orbuch, before we let you go, where can viewers find your books, such as Secrets to Surviving Your Children's Love Relationships, a guide for parents, and find more information, maybe even get in contact with you if they would like some advice on their love relationships?
Well, I have 3 self-help books, Tyler, that are all based on science. One for long-term relationships and how to improve those relationships. One for finding love. And then, as you said, Secrets to Surviving Your Love Relationships. They're all available on Amazon. People can get a hold of me at my website, which is Dr. Terri, thelovedoctor.com. That's all one word, DRTERRI. thelovedoctor.com, as well as you said, I'm a distinguished professor at Oakland University, oakland.edu.
Dr. Orbuch, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.